Hello everybody, so in today's Vintage Thursday we are on a bit of a rescue mission. So you can see we've got the 178 and behind us, or in front of us, now behind, hopefully you can see in the sunshine. You might just be able to see, there's a bit sticking up and I have just cleared the drawbar there. So what you can see behind us is the spout of a forage harvester. Now some of you will be able to identify what it is from that spout and some of you won't. So what we're going to do, we're going to hitch the 178 onto the machine, pull it out, have a look round, work out what it is, and tell you A, why it's here, B, why we're pulling it out, and C, potentially what could maybe happen to it in the future. So let's hitch on, drag it out of the hedge and have a look at it. Okay, so here it is, out in the fresh air for the first time in 8 years actually. So quickly, we'll just clean all the greenery off of it. We can actually have a proper look at what it is. So I'll get some gloves, get all the thorns and the old stinger nettles, and yes, we'll have a little discussion about what it is and why it was there. Right, so here it is in its kind of cleaned off glory. So what is it? It is a Kidd double top forage harvester. Now Archie Kidd was a manufacturer in Devizes in Wiltshire, so not a million miles from here. And he made a wide range of mostly livestock based machinery. And it had a bit of a reputation for being very well made, quite heavy duty stuff. So I don't know any real history of this machine. All I know is it came here. So we bought this machine from a neighbour in 1998, okay, early March. What was happening at the time, we had a field of ryegrass planted the previous autumn that was looking very good. It needed to come off, but at that point it was too wet for the cows to graze. So what we wanted to do, we needed a machine that would cut it in the field, bring it back to the yard to feed to the cows. And that's called zero grazing, for those of you that don't know. So what we did, we bought this on a Sunday morning from the neighbour. We brought it home, we spent the day, and I think probably part of Monday, we had to plate the spout because the spout was rusted through and the flap was rusted. So we plated the spout, and underneath this cover is there's an auger in there. We'll go through it in a minute. So we had to replate the bottom of the auger tube because that was rusted through. And that afternoon of that Monday afternoon, we cut our first load of grass and brought it home for the cows. And this machine then worked every day until the middle of May, cutting grass, bringing it home, because the spring turned so wet we just couldn't turn the cows out. They would have wasted too much grass. So we used this machine. In the early days we were supplementing the silage we had left, but as the spring wore on and it got wetter, We ran, obviously the silage depleted, we ran out of silage. So this machine went on and brought in everything the cows were eating for those two and a bit months, was brought in by this machine. Up until early to mid-May, we turned the cows out and we started mowing for silage on the same day. So that's how wet it was that spring. So we kind of thought, well, you know, the machine done its job, and you know, it got us through that very difficult spring. But then we went on and we carried on using it. We probably used it every year, I would think. I can't remember a year we didn't use it. So we used it up until 2012 was the last year we used it. That again was a wet spring. Very early spring was dry, but it became wet, I think around early April-ish, 2012. I mean, it stayed wet much the same again till kind of mid-May. And again, this machine was called on to feed the cows. That was the last time it got used. Okay, so we decided to give up using it then, and because that auger trough was gone again, it needed a bit of work, and it kind of we've not had another spring since where we have had to bring grass in because we had nothing else to feed the cows. So this got pushed back in the corner in 2012. It's not moved since. We're going to build a lean-to on the back of the shed where it was. The shed behind us, or in front of me, behind you. So it needs to come out of the way. So the original intention was we were going to scrap it, and we were just going to get rid of it because it's wore out. And I did. A friend of mine has got a 165, and I offered it to him. We were discussing forages one day, but I don't know why, but anyway, we do stuff like that. And I said, you know, we've got an old double chop, do you want it? He said he didn't really need it, or he didn't want it, but he knew somebody who might. And that's as far as it went. And then lockdown came, and you know, everything got shut down and we couldn't do anything for a few months. Until Dad said a couple of weeks ago, do we want to get rid of the double chop? You know, now we've got the 178, it's a kind of right age for this machine. So Dad had a double chop here many years ago, back in the 70s, running on a 165. And now we've got the 178. I've kind of decided we're going to hang on to the forager just because it's the right kind of age for it. And Gareth over on the Cotland Farmer channel, he's become a forage harvester collector now. He's bought a couple in the last few months. So we can't let him have all the old vintage forage harvester fun, so we're going to join him. So I said earlier on, these had a reputation for being quite well built. I wouldn't mind betting. You've just seen it pulled out of the hedge. In a minute we're going to check the gearbox, see if we've got any oil in there, and just make sure everything turns. And I wouldn't mind betting this machine will cut some thistles. There's some thistles here. If it's freed up, we'll stick it on the tractor, and I wouldn't mind betting these were built so well that after all those years of being stuck in the hedge, this will cut within 10 minutes of fiddling just to make sure everything's working. We'll give that a go in a minute. But a quick look at the machine. So what it does, obviously PTO drive comes in to the gearbox, goes through under this hood. So under this hood is a bank of flails, so it's a 5-foot cut. There's a row of flails under here, and so they cut it and they discharge it into. Okay, so I mentioned earlier on how we replated or put a new floor in the auger trough. If I can get it open, we'll see if there's actually any auger left in there, any floor left in there. I'm gonna have to use two hands. Right, here goes. First reveal for 8 years. Is there anything left underneath? Oh, here we go. Right, so as you can see, got some cobwebs. This is the auger trough I was talking about. You can see totally rusted through. Our repairers rusted through, which is why we stopped using it. But anyway, back to the workings of it. So up in the front, okay, so we're underneath the cow. This is the rotor, all the flails. Okay, so these spin round, cut the grass. Oh, it's all turning. It's all turning. We might be on for a bit of cutting. Okay, so the flails cut the grass. throw it up against the door, and then it drops into the auger, which augers it acrossways into the blower chopper unit. So this is why they call it a double chop, because the first chop is the flails, so this will cut standing grass, and then the second chop is between this. So on this flywheel there's 3 blades, so there's one blade here, you can tell it's dead as a dead thing, the way I can just rub my finger on it. So this is supposed to be a blade, and this is the shear bar in the back here, so this rotates, cuts the grass against the shear bar, and also on this flywheel are blower paddles, which then fire up the spout. I can see down through there, that's all rusted through in the bottom there as well. I got a feeling, actually, I think we did plate this when we had it new. Well, not when we had it new, when we first had it, I'm pretty sure we had to plate the blower as well, thinking about it. Right, so that's the basics of the operation. This one has got a hydraulic trailer hitch. I think it was an option, was either this or like a manual fishtail kind of thing, where you did reverse the trailer, hook up to it, and a manual catch would go through. This is the better option with hydraulic trailer hitch. This hydraulic ram on the spout, oh dear, I got dust on me fluffy thing. Right, so this hydraulic ram on the spout is not original. This has been a later add-on. It is very good, actually. It's better than what it would have been. Was a threaded portion here, and running up to a handle that runs through this hole and up to the tractor cab, and you would turn the handle to pivot the spout. And another upgrade this has got up here on the flap is a hydraulic ram. That again was manually controlled. That is actually a, okay, so that on this machine is a trailer brake ram. So the original ram that was on it leaked, and so we put that one on just to keep us going. But again, the original machine wouldn't have had anything hydraulic on it. The spout was all manual. Again, I guess to keep it reliable and keep the cost down. The depth of cut is operated on this thread here, which pivots the whole machine up and down to regulate the depth of cut. Some machines did have a hydraulic ram in here for doing that, do away with the screw thread. We always said one day we're going to upgrade it to hydraulic control, because the way we were using it for zero grazing, whereby it would take a few days to get across the field, quite often you cut the headland first, and that would be growing again by the time you'd finished cutting the centre of the field. So you were always running over, taking off that fresh growth, which is not ideal, but again, it's one of those things, we said we'd do it and it never got done. So we know it turns over, we found that out. Now we know the button on the PTO shaft is seized. Let's see, oh, the actual, right, so the actual shaft slides, the machine turns over. So what we've got to do, we'll check the gearbox, oh, better not fall over. Right, so we'll check the gearbox, see if there's any oil left, and get our button going on the PTO shaft so we can connect it up to the tractor. And I got a feeling we're going to end up cutting some thistles. Okay, so this is the level and the filler plug. We'll just get the moss off because don't want to get moss in our gearbox. You reckon that looks about 1/2 inch to me? Let's 1/2 inch spanner. There we go. Let's blow the dust out. Oh dear, can't see any. Let's get the dipstick. Oh, plenty. Look at that. Oh, it's like new. Look at that oil. Shiny like the day it was put in. Proper new oil. Right, we're good to go, you. Right, so we'll do that up tight. Obviously not had any rainwater getting in there. It's all been covered up under all its brambles. Right, so we'll take a hammer. I did mean to bring some oil. I forgot to bring the oil can. See if we can get our button going. It's all a bit dry. What do you think we're... Oh, it's gone. There we are. It's even got a bit of spring left in there, like. Right. Let's connect up. Right, so the method of transferring between work position and transport. Okay, we pull this pin out, just pull the machine forward and it will swing across, and we transfer the pin into here, this hole for working position. Right, so I just got to get a bit of oil for the shaft. The shaft won't quite slip onto the tractor, so I'll get some oil. We'll get out into transport, away from transport position to work position. We will shut our lid down. We'll see if it goes in gear. There's no reason why it shouldn't. It is all free. And we'll cut a little bit of weed. Well, there we have it. It cuts, it blows just about. I dare say there was just as much falling out the bottom of the machine as there was coming up the spout. But you know, it did its job. We dragged it out the hedge. I mean, yeah, you can see here, look, where we just travelled up that last run. It's dropping out the bottom of the auger. That's not going up the spout over here. That's where the hole is. So if we were to patch up the holes, these never had the best blow on them anyway. I mean, when we were cutting wet grass, often it would struggle to get into the trailer, especially wet permanent. I mean, if we were cutting this permanent pasture in the wet, it would be hard work. It went really well in good standing ryegrass. You could go pretty much as fast as you could, and that would set it up the spout, and it would perform really well on the ryegrass. Not so good in the permanent pasture, but that's just the type of grass. And the fact the machines don't have the blow, and they didn't have a fabulous amount of blow, coupled with the fact that it was already 30 years old when we had it. So you know, so it's all conspiring against it, but it did us very, very well. It's a shame to scrap it. You know, the amount of work it's done for us, it does seem a bit mean. You know, it's a machine, but don't want to be mean to it. So we're going to keep it. So what do we want to do with it? I don't know. We might try and find time to patch it up a bit. Maybe we'll pick up a load with it next spring. Next first cut, we might try and pick up a load of silage with it. Well, that might be something to aim for. Will it get any? What it really needs is a nice paint job. Patch up the holes, blow up the tyres. The tyres are a bit soft, and just straighten out a few dents. I ain't got time for that, but you never know, one day. Anyway, so there's enough waffling on. It did its job. It come out the hedge, it cut some weed and some grass. So I think that'll do for now. So please subscribe to the channel. You never know, next spring you might see it again with some grass coming up, all of it going up the spout, not coming out underneath. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.